Hello and welcome to Student Voice. I'm April Shaw. On this episode of Student Voice, we'll be discussing all manner of comics and graphic novels. With me today are Antonio Farmer, Lauren Henley, and River Malone. So I'm really excited about talking about graphic novels and comics and all that. That's been a huge part of my life. I'm a little bit of a nerd, a little bit of a weeb, I will admit. So I'm excited to see what you guys think. So starting off, do you read many comics at all?
I haven't read any comics within like the past year or two because I started reading real books. You're
all grown up now.
I know.
No magic, no whimsy.
I know, where's the joy and whimsy? Oh, well, although you can find that in real books.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that term in a little bit. All right, how about Lauren?
I read comics on and off. They're really fun. I really like them, and I think they're a great way to enjoy reading.
Awesome. How about you, River?
Well, for me, comic books have been one of my favorite forms of media just because I like superheroes. I like seeing underdog fighters. I loved whenever I got into comics, I actually bit the bullet and started reading them. I remember the first one I picked up was the comic Ghost Rider issue, and that was one of my favorite books to this day, mostly because it's just absurd. It doesn't make any sense half the time, and that's the fun of it. But comics for me have been my main way of just going bankrupt, because it's so easy for me to walk into one of those comic stores and be like, yeah, I'll read this and this and this and this, and then that's how it spirals.
Fair enough. And
I'm a recovering addict.
Rip to your bank account, man. Thoughts and prayers.
You can pray.
All right. Do you have any favorite comic books or graphic novels? Kind of segueing off of that, you mentioned one or two.
Yeah, the comic Ghost Rider issue, Cosmic Ghost Rider issue, was one of my favorite. And then another one I really enjoyed was the Hellboy. I got the black one, and that thing is pretty much a Bible. But it's I love the art in it specifically, and I love the story that goes with it because it's actually a really good mystery story. But beyond that, I just like anything that I can read for the most part. One that I got into because I read the first issue alone, and it was on one of my random hunts, was Kaiju number 8, and that has become one of my favorite series to look for because it is genuinely really good, and recently got an anime recently.
Nice. All right, how about you, Lauren?
My favorite graphic novel series is Scott Pilgrim. I have the entire collection. I love it. It's one of my favorite book series ever. It's a really nice read, and I recommend it to anybody.
How'd you feel about the adaptation?
The movie is great. Love the movie, and the anime is also really fun. I love both of them. I just love Scott Pilgrim.
All right, Antonio, I know you said you didn't read very many of them, but when you were, what were some of your favorites?
Scott Pilgrim, obviously. Scott Pilgrim is peak. That's what it is.
Peak. It's really is peak cinema.
I'm not gonna lie. I watched the movie first, and then I started reading the comics. I like the movie better just because I like movies more than comics, but that's one of my favorites. And then, even though it's kind of basic, I like what's called Batman Killing Joke. That is just
that is pretty solid.
Just one of the best comics of all time. That's just what that is.
All right, so I kind of want to follow up on what you said previously. So you love Scott Pilgrim. Something about that seemed to resonate with you, I suppose. But what makes the comic not a real book?
I think
there's just not as much text.
Yeah, I think it's whenever it starts putting the picture directly into your head is when it stops becoming an actual novel. Because the beauty of a novel is it can be anything. You can imagine, they can say the character looks one way, and that way is completely different to how you'll see it. It's why no movie adaptation is ever going to satisfy anyone, because it always will look different from how you
imagined it. Yeah.
And that's why, the Harry Potter series, a lot of people don't say it's not like the books. It's because it isn't. It's because it's sorry.
It's not what you imagined
It's
the
not
books
what you imagine,
to be.
and so therefore, your imagination filled in the gaps so much that it's this isn't what I read.
Definitely.
And it's why a lot of books adaptations struggle to get off the ground, because you can't really gain the same thing you can from a comic book. If you look at a comic book movie compared to a comic book, they look pretty one-to-one, and it's because they have a guide to work off of. They know what they're trying to achieve, they can achieve it. But when the book just says, he has white hair, it's long, and has blue eyes,
There's a
Well,
thousand
what
ways
style
you
is
can,
his
you
hair
can
in?
imagine
Like,
a
is
thousand
it
ways.
pulled up in a ponytail? Like, is it braided? Is it in dreads? Like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I feel like the novel stops being a novel when it starts showing you directly what the picture is.
Now, that's an interesting theory. That's cool. All right. Did we get everybody's favorites? All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. For me personally, if you care, my favorite is Bakuman.
Oh.
It's literally a manga about making anime and manga. So like, there's just
I've heard of that one, I think.
I love
I've heard
it.
it's really good.
It is. It's very solid, and the anime is just top notch. Top notch. Love it. All right. So we've kind of started talking about this, but what do you think about comic books or graphic novels compared to standard books? We kind of touched on that a little bit. And do you prefer one to the other?
I prefer the fact that a comic can't, or that a novel doesn't show you everything. Like, I do like the fact that it makes your imagination run a little bit wild, but whenever it comes to a really complex story, I just want to see it. Like, that's where my brain defaults to. It just wants to see it happen and not have to like imagine what's going on. Like, I am reading one of the Warhammer books, Horus Rising, which is a really long book, and it's a really well written book, but it has so many moving parts in it that I'm just like, I just want to see this happening. Like, I just want to see that. I want to see it as opposed to reading it, because I feel like I can read it and not fully engage in it. But when I'm seeing it, I'm like, I'm seeing what's happening. It's the difference between like hearing a movie in the background versus watching it.
That is
It's
true.
like you have to fill in the gaps when you can't hear it.
Like for me, honestly, I still am leaning more to comics just because like I like seeing stuff, and like sometimes you could be like there's been some times where I read a book, I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
I just didn't get it at all, and
Like
I end up
I've had that happen
thinking-
before too. Like
Yeah.
you just don't like I'm like, what did I just read? What happened?
Yeah, and then it'll be like one of
Yeah.
those things where it's like I get something that I wasn't supposed to get at all, or that wasn't the plot.
That was not the takeaway.
Yeah, and it's just like even though comic books kind of hold your hand just a little bit too much with that, I still think it's better than just like,
Plus,
you kinda
comics
not
will go into story. Like they will like hit topics, and I'm like, you're really just gonna say that? Like you're really
Yeah.
just gonna let that slide?
Also, there's just some things that are just better explained visually.
Yeah, like a character's powers.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
very hard to imagine like any character that isn't just like a human.
Yeah.
Because you're like like
Because you don't know what he looks like. What is his facial features and stuff like that. Going back to what we were saying earlier about like a comic making you not have to fill in the blanks with your imagination. You don't have to imagine what the Hulk looks like. You see the Hulk.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think Superman is one of those things I just don't think can work outside of a comic book.
I don't
really
think
can.
I don't think superheroes as a whole
They
can really
don't.
work outside as a comic book because, well, obviously, they started the whole comic book trend. But like, if you just take it and like take away the pictures, it takes away like the value I feel of the superheroes.
Yeah.
Because like that's what comic books do really good is they're really good at action.
Yeah.
And like books, they can be good at action too. But like these comic books can convey it in a way because you can see the action and you don't have to imagine it. And sometimes imagining the action can kind of muddle it in your mind. So being able to like get the picture of the action, it can really say a lot.
And especially with the way they have to allocate what goes onto a page with the way a graphic novel is organized, with how big do certain boxes get, it really can change the way you tell a story because the shape of the box also dictates like what can happen in that shot and stuff like that. And it's basically like seeing photographs, but the way they arrange them is just so it can. I've seen comics do like 4 pages that are just full spreads. Like there's no because they want you to get it. They want you to get that information. They want you to see what's happening. They want you to see that beatdown. They want you to see what's happening, this heartbreaking moment. They want you to feel stressed because there's not a lot of time. Because when there's less boxes, it feels like there's less time sometimes. Because I'm like, oh wait, we're jumping to this really quickly. We're jumping to this really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll let you get your less.
Another thing is, like, one of the big writing things is show, don't tell.
Yes.
And that's something comic books can do because you can see the picture. And I feel like a lot of books really miss the mark on the show, don't tell thing. And they
'Cause they
usually
have
tend
to tell.
Because they have to tell, yeah. But, like, sometimes they don't have to.
Yeah,
love
there's
it,
just-
love it. And speaking of running out of time, that is it for this episode of Student Voice. For more information about Chattanooga State's selection of graphic novels, visit thelibrary.chattanoogastate.edu. Have a great day.